Hey there, tech enthusiasts and digital adventurers. Today, we're flipping a script on innovation. We all love groundbreaking gadgets and futuristic ideas, but what happens when technology doesn't live up to the hype? Or worse, when it crashes and burns in front of the entire world? Buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into the biggest tech fails in history, where billions of dollars, years of research, and the brightest minds still couldn't stop disaster. Get ready, because some of these fails are so shocking, you won't believe they actually happened. So, to kick things off, let's rewind to a headline-grabbing disaster that literally went up in smoke. Samsung Galaxy Note 7, the explosive smartphone. Let's start with a fail so big, it's impossible to forget. In 2016, Samsung introduced the Galaxy Note 7, the latest, greatest flagship phone. Stylish design? Check. Cutting-edge features? Check. A loyal fan base counting down the seconds to launch? Double check. But there was one small, and by small, I mean catastrophic problem. The batteries. It started with a few isolated reports. Phones overheating, phones smoking, and then phones catching fire. Sometimes right in people's hands or pockets. The culprit was a flawed battery design that caused the lithium-ion cells to short circuit. The issue escalated so quickly that airlines banned the device from flights, and Samsung was forced to issue 2 global recalls before finally pulling the Note 7 from the market altogether. The financial damage? Over $5 billion. But the real cost was Samsung's reputation, which took years to rebuild. Now, you might think that was the end of tech fails, right? But hold on. The tech world's full of ambitious dreams that crash and burn. Let's roll right into another spectacular misstep. Google Glass, the future that never happened. Back in 2013, Google sent shockwaves through the industry by introducing Google Glass, a sleek, futuristic pair of smart glasses designed to bring augmented reality to the masses. The idea was groundbreaking. Hands-free photos, live navigation, real-time search, even video calls, all projected right onto your lens. People imagined a world where wearing computers on your face would be the new normal. But the excitement quickly fizzled out. The device was expensive, the battery life was weak, the design felt awkward, and privacy concerns erupted like wildfire. People didn't like the idea being secretly recorded, and the term glass hole was born to mock early adopters. Despite all the buzz, Google quietly pulled the product from shelves by 2015. The idea wasn't dead, but its first attempt had failed spectacularly. So what's the lesson here? Even tech giants can misread the room, and that's a pattern you'll see more than once on this list. Speaking of which, our next fail shows that even Microsoft can stumble hard. Microsoft Zune, the iPod killer that couldn't compete. Let's rewind to 2006. Apple's iPod was everywhere. It wasn't just a music player, it was a cultural phenomenon. Microsoft wasn't going to sit back and watch, so they launched Zune.
And we had a new competitor this last holiday season, which was, of course, Microsoft's Zune.
Zune was supposed to dethrone the iPod. It had decent hardware, good sound, and even a social sharing feature called the Zune Social. But from day one, the product just couldn't catch up. The design felt clunky, the interface uninspired, and Microsoft entered the market too late. The worst part, even with all its might, Microsoft couldn't create the emotional connection Apple had built with its fans. In 2011, Microsoft finally waved the white flag, officially discontinuing the Zune. A perfect example that timing, style, and user experience matter just as much as tech specs. And speaking of timing, sometimes even billions of dollars in Hollywood A-listers can't save a bad idea. Let's talk about one of the shortest-lived, most hyped tech platforms ever. Quibi, the $1.75 billion flop. In 2020, the world was on lockdown. Everyone was streaming Netflix, scrolling TikTok, and binge-watching YouTube. Enter Quibi, a mobile-first streaming service that promised Hollywood-quality content in bite-sized episodes, all under 10 minutes. The company was founded by industry legend Jeffrey Katzenberg, with $1.75 billion in funding, and they secured A-list actors, directors, and producers. The plan was bold: revolutionize how people consumed entertainment on their phones. But the timing couldn't have been worse. With everyone stuck at home, nobody wanted short mobile content. They craved long-form shows on their TVs. Add confusing marketing, app design flaws, and competition from platforms that people already loved, and Quibi became one of the fastest, most expensive failures in tech history. It folded in just 6 months. Now, Quibi might have been short-lived, but some tech fails don't disappear so quickly. In fact, the next one still haunts the Apple timeline to this day. Apple Maps, lost in the digital world. In 2012, Apple decided it didn't want to rely on Google Maps anymore. The solution? Launch its own navigation service, Apple Maps. But this was one journey Apple wasn't ready to take. Users reported missing cities, distorted landmarks, and directions that could send you into rivers or deserts. One Australian police department even had to issue a public safety warning, as drivers ended up stranded in life-threatening conditions. The backlash was brutal, and Apple CEO Tim Cook had to do the unthinkable: publicly apologize and recommend that iPhone users download Google Maps until Apple could fix its mess. A tech fail this big proves one thing: even the most polished brands can trip over their own ambition. But the stakes get even higher when lives are involved, which brings us to one of the most shocking cases of them all: Theranos, the medical tech mirage. Imagine a world where a single drop of blood could diagnose hundreds of medical conditions, faster, cheaper, and less invasive than ever before. That was the dream Theranos sold to investors, doctors, and even U.S. politicians. Founded by Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos raised billions in funding, all on the promise of revolutionary blood testing technology. But behind closed doors, the tech simply didn't work. Theranos used third-party machines for actual testing while continuing to claim their own device. Edison was doing a job. Eventually, whistleblowers and investigative journalists exposed the truth. The company collapsed. Holmes was convicted of fraud, and Theranos went from a $9 billion unicorn to one of the most notorious scams in Silicon Valley history. If Theranos was the perfect storm of lies and ambition, our next entry shows how sometimes it's not the idea, it's the execution that can ruin everything. Let's go back to 2007. Windows Vista, the operating system nobody wanted. When Microsoft released Windows Vista, the world expected the next leap in computing. What they got instead was a masterclass in how not to launch an operating system. Vista was plagued with problems. It was resource-heavy, slow on older hardware, full of compatibility issues, and that infamous user account control feature annoyed users with constant pop-up warnings. Even long-term Microsoft loyalists clung to Windows XP until Windows 7 finally arrived to clean up the mess. Vista's failure showed that even essential products like operating systems need more than ambition. They need real-world readiness. Why tech fails matter. So, why do these stories matter? Why study failure when we live in a world obsessed with success? Because failure is a feature, not a bug. Every major advancement we enjoy today, from the smartphone in your pocket to the streaming services on your TV, stands on the shoulders of countless failures. When companies fall short, they learn, adapt, and innovate, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But at the same time, these failures also remind us no company's too big to mess up, no idea is too brilliant to flop, and no launch is too bulletproof to backfire. So the next time you hear about the next big thing, remember, even the biggest names in tech once got it spectacularly wrong. And hey, before you go, here's a quick bonus fail from the AI world. In 2016, Microsoft launched Tay, an AI chatbot designed to learn from real human conversations on Twitter. But instead of becoming smarter, Tay turned toxic, and within hours, it started spouting offensive and racist comments. Microsoft had to shut it down the very next day. A perfect reminder, even artificial intelligence isn't immune to human errors or internet trolls. If you enjoyed this dive into tech's most unforgettable disasters, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the wild side of technology. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.